So you've probably heard by now that the federal government has been shut down. And there are a lot of MAGA types who are attacking the Democrats for this, saying, oh, you just want to give health care to illegal aliens. There are Democrats who are, for the most part, correctly pointing out that President Trump and the Republicans are the people who are most to blame for this. But there are also people on the MAGA right who are laughing at federal employees who will not get paid, who will simply have to stick it out and deal with the nonsense as a result of this because Trump and the Republicans threw a temper tantrum. So we need to talk about why is it that people on the MAGA right feel so comfortable mocking and ridiculing federal workers? This is a question that I addressed back in the Doge era. Remember when Elon Musk was in the federal government? You could say that we're still in the Doge era, but Elon Musk left back in May. So they mocked these federal employees. They said, oh, boo-hoo, you got a mean, harassing email from Elon Musk saying that you need to do your job. You're lazy. You don't get anything done. You want us to not have to ask you to name 5 things that you've done. Boo-hoo. So they'd mock these federal employees. They'd say they're lazy. And it's one thing when generic MAGA types do it, like someone on X who maybe makes $40,000 or $35,000 a year does this. It's another thing, a whole new level of just smoking arrogance when some far-right commentator with 6-figure subscriber counts on YouTube or even 7-figure subscriber counts on YouTube who just makes all their money off of YouTube goes and says, yeah, these federal employees don't have real jobs. Really? Really? You get to talk into a microphone barking out hatred against all of these groups that you despise, federal workers being just one of many of them. You get to make money, 6 figures oftentimes, just doing this. You don't have to go outside your house. Well, you might go to your studio. You might commute from your house to your studio, and I'm sure that's a very rough commute. But yeah, they go and they just use their platform to disparage people, and that's all they need to do to get their money. So the idea that, oh yeah, no, federal workers, they are useless. And I on the other hand, with my microphone in my air-conditioned studio, I am the useful one who, I just spread misinformation all day and hatred, and I'm the one who's useful to society. No, you're not. You're not more useful than federal workers, that's for sure. Your main use is actually showing people what they shouldn't be like when they grow up, which is just ignorant and a propagandist. So that's the one use that far-right commentators have. So what is the deal with, why do they feel so comfortable saying these people are lazy and they're bad? Because for the most part, they're not lazy. But even if they were lazy, so what? Why do you get to mock their misery? Even if they were lazy, there are plenty of people in the private enterprise who are lazy. CEOs are a pretty good example of this. I hate to break it to you, but CEOs don't actually do all that much. They just get a share in the profits. They get a big, commission. They get their checks, whatever. Lots of people in the private industry, the private sector, they're just like, yeah, no, they don't really have to do much. They don't work 9 to 5. They can work remotely. They have a flexible schedule. So what is the deal? Why do they target so-called laziness when it's the federal government, but not when it's people in private industry? Well, they're funded by taxpayer dollars. And so they might say, oh, well, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to pay lazy people. And it's like, well, what about the money that you spend at corporations to pay lazy CEOs? How about that? You don't care about that. You don't care about when the private enterprise, like Titans, these nut jobs who are just at the top of the food chain and make way more than federal government employees. You don't care when they stomp their boots on your neck, but you think, federal government, federal employees, they're the tyrants, they're the evil, lazy ones. So yeah, I get that, okay, you don't like being taxed. You don't like your tax money going to people who you perceive as lazy. But the fact is they're not really lazy. That's just a stereotype that you promote based on the fact they work for the government. And also, so you just don't believe we need a functioning government? Like, there is going to inevitably be some issue relating to work ethic in any workplace. And so yes, sometimes federal employees may be a little lazy at times, but you know what? They're still working. And we've seen that they're actually the hardest workers in the country, among them, I should say. I don't want to single anyone out, but yeah, during the Doge era, they're some of the most crucial people in the country. How are we going to handle natural disasters? How are we going to handle extreme weather? How are we going to handle aviation? All this stuff that we just took for granted. These were lessons they're lessons that I think we've yet to learn. But the right loves to disparage them because they're tax funded and they just hate government and think, oh, the only legitimate job is a job in the private sector. Yeah, no, government bad. So it kind of goes back to their whole, traditional, Ronald Reagan government bad thing. But they're a lot more nationalistic than Ronald Reagan, and they're very obsessed with sort of the Trump cult of personality thing and the closed borders, whereas Reagan was for open borders. So it's paleo-conservative policy with respect to American culture, that like, oh, American culture, every other culture is bad and inferior. But also this idea that, oh, government bad, government bad, trickle down good, we don't want to staff our federal agencies. We want government so small that we can drown it in a bathtub. That's what Reagan said. But they want government so small that they can drown it in a sippy cup. That's what the Trumpers think, and the Elon Musk libertarian tech bros think. They want really just handcuffed government. They want federal employees to suffer. They think that if you worked for the federal government, you are simply a leech, that you're disposable, that you deserve to be mocked. And they celebrate. You can see so many of these right-wing influencers over on X and TikTok mocking and celebrating federal employees being fired. So yeah, do not let them claim that they're the compassionate ones, that they're the ones who have respect for rule of law, given that these firings are often unconstitutional and illegal. Do not let them get away with this. So this is my analysis on why I think the right hates federal workers, at least a majority of the right, the ones who are celebrating this government shutdown. The ones who are actually mad at it, well, they may not hate federal workers, but they're still misleading people because they're saying it's Democrats' fault for trying to give health care to illegal immigrants. That's not what's happening. So no, do not fall for the BS. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. This is the more the merrier, and I look forward to speaking to you in my next video.